There has over the years been a very strong wind of hyper-Calvinism in Holland, denominations that are completely marked and identified by it, but also denominations that, not as a whole, are hyper-Calvinistic, but have a tendency towards that in their preaching and pastoral care for souls. How do you evaluate such a reality in preaching? And what is the effect for assurance of salvation among believers and the joy they experience in God?
Yeah, well, that's the question I thought I was answering at the beginning. So I won't say much more. If I only know a historical definition of hyper-Calvinism. I don't know your definition or what you're talking about. I'll tell you mine, and if that corresponds, good. If not, not good. Historically, hyper-Calvinism has been that you only offer the gospel to those who give signs of being among the elect. I think that's dead wrong, blasphemously wrong. We offer the gospel indiscriminately. God decides who the elect are and who believes the gospel. We say, whosoever will may come. And God decides who will. That's Calvinism. That's through and through Calvinism. I don't know how. I'm a 7-point Calvinist. I'm not a weak Calvinist. But that's not Calvinism. That's not to believe that you should look at somebody, try to discern whether there's some signs of election before you offer them the gospel is crazy. Anybody want to just explain that to me? Because the Bible, you walk into a synagogue and you preach the gospel. Christ died for sinners. Whoever believes will be saved. There's nothing compromising about Calvinism in that sense. We offer the gospel. We scatter the seed. It falls on paths. It falls on rocks. It falls in the thorns, and God decides. God decides. I have many people in this city. Don't you love, Acts 18? I have many people in this city. Go preach the gospel. You don't know who they are. Stand up and herald the good news. Be a good town crier. I've got my elect out there. I'm going to draw them to myself. So that's the first. I don't know whether it's an exegetical error or what it is. I've wondered, where does that come from? Where does that come from? Is that a fear of losing? Is it a fear of becoming Arminian? Is it a fear of becoming worldly? I don't know what that is, but it's not biblical and it's not real Calvinism. So, with regard to assurance, when I hear you and others I've talked to describe to me what you're talking about with the problem of assurance, I just shake my head and say, I know the 8th chapter of Romans by heart. I could recite it to you right now. I think Romans 8 is the greatest chapter in the Bible. It's just magnificent. It's got everything in it. It's good for pastoral counseling. It's good for missions. It's good for comfort. It's good for my soul. It's just great. And I cannot read Romans 8 and think that it is God's will or the apostolic will that people not have assurance. Too many negatives in that sentence, maybe. God's will is that his people say, if God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, will he not with him freely give us all things? Who shall bring any charge against God's elect? It is God who justifies. Don't you dare treat people as though they shouldn't act as justified people. Who is to condemn? Christ Jesus rose, more than rose. He's at the right hand of God. He's interceding for us. I mean, that chapter is written to make your people soar. And if you don't feel that, you're not reading it right. Your people should soar when they read that chapter. I mean, from 35 on to the end, who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? In all these things we are more than conquerors, even though they kill us all day long. There's nothing naive about this chapter. We are being killed all day long, but we are more than conquerors. So I'm sure that nothing will separate us from the love of God. I can't buy it. I just absolutely cannot buy it. If you create a church where your people are not on wings with that kind of text and that kind of preaching, you got a different Bible than I do.
Clear.